Hey everyone, welcome to Black Rifle Homestead. This is Mallory, and in this video, I'm going to share how you can homestead anywhere. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. So glad you're here. Make sure that you subscribe down below if you're not already, and hit the bell notification so you get notified every time I post a new video. So in this video, I want to share how even if you're not in the ideal circumstances, you don't have a lot of land, you don't live out in the country, you can still homestead. Before I get into that, especially for new viewers or people maybe who are confused, I got a confused comment the other day about, hey, I don't understand the new name, Black Rifle Homestead. And so I want to quickly explain that again in case you guys missed that. Black Rifle is a moniker for anything that has to do with the military, because in combat, soldiers carry a black M4 rifle. No, we are not associated whatsoever with the coffee company that bears Black Rifle in their name. We coupled Black Rifle with Homestead to illustrate that it is possible to homestead even while you're in the military. So in the military, you move every 2 to 3 years, sometimes sooner, and it's not really possible to put down roots anywhere while you're in the military. So even if you're not in the military, this video is still for you, because there's so many people out there that are not in the ideal homestead situation, but you still desire that type of lifestyle. So, all right, first of all, why even call this homesteading? When you think of a homestead or people that are homesteading, you probably are thinking of people who have a lot of land. They probably have farm animals or a ranch type of situation. They're raising their own meat. They have a very large garden. They have maybe honeybees. You know, they live not near a city. They live out in the country or out in the county. And that's your typical homestead. And you put down roots. You move there and that's where you live until you die, right? That's what people think is a homestead. But for many, if not most people, it's just not possible, especially for those of us in the military, and maybe for other people too in other situations. We live in a suburban neighborhood, 1/4 of an acre, and there's so many people out there who are in the same situation where going and getting a lot of land right now and getting farm animals is just not realistic. So in my opinion, the core foundation of being a homesteader is your mindset. This is why you can consider yourself a homesteader even if you are in a rental or apartment situation. The basic foundation of the homesteading mindset, are you clapping? is to take consistent steps to be more independent from the system. Some people might call this self-sufficiency. You're never going to reach total self-sufficiency, and that's not the goal anyway, but just taking consistent steps to be more independent. Going along with that, so you have your mindset, you have this mindset that, okay, I don't want to be so dependent on the system, the food system and the medical system and all these different things. All these things that as Americans we rely on really heavily, if you really think about it. So the next area, another core tenet of being a homesteader, is consistently developing skills that are homestead related, so that if and when you eventually can get your dream homestead, you can get that big acreage, that big piece of land, that you will have the skills already in order to thrive in that situation. And so those are the things that I'm going to talk about, the skills that you can develop even when you're in an atypical homesteading situation. So the first way is to cook from scratch. Now, I did not even really consider this a homesteading skill until I recently heard another homesteader talking about this. I don't remember who it was, but I thought, yeah, actually that is so true. And I have been developing this skill since I was a little girl. I have always loved to be in the kitchen and to cook and bake. So if you have been relying a little bit too much on convenience foods or takeout, now is the time to start changing that. Now is the time to start cooking from simple ingredients and making your meals that are both healthy and delicious. They don't need to be fancy. some of the best home cooking is when you get out your slow cooker and you throw a slab of meat in there with some potatoes and carrots and broth, and you let it cook all day, maybe while you're at work, and then you can come home and sit right down to a meal that's ready to eat. It's like an MRE, meal ready to eat, in the military, except 1000% better. All right, I wanted to come outside and film this segment about the second step to becoming more of a homesteader, and that is to have a garden. Behind me, you can see half of my garden. There's a lot of awesome things growing, and if you missed my June garden tour, then you can go find it in the cards up above, and then I will also have a July tour coming. But so that second skill that you can develop is having a garden. Now, you don't have to have a huge garden like us. We do have 16 garden beds that are 6 feet by 3 feet, and this is definitely the biggest garden that we've ever had. You don't have to start off that way. Start with something. Maybe you're living in an apartment or a rental situation that doesn't allow you to change the landscaping. So that means that you can do container gardening. So this is called the green stalk. And this is perfect for people that live in apartments or renting houses, or even if you just want some of your crops more conveniently located on your porch, like greens and herbs. I lived in an apartment when my husband was deployed back in 2017, and then after that we moved to Germany and we lived in a stairwell apartment, and so we didn't have a yard and we had to container garden. And I had things like tomatoes, peppers, herbs, flowers, and we even had a lemon tree in Germany. So don't think that you are limited when you don't really have a yard or you can't do anything to your yard. You can still garden. And then maybe as a military family, you have not invested very much in yard equipment. Like, we only just bought a mower and we don't have a tiller. So in that situation, garden beds like you see we have here are the perfect option to have a garden that is not in containers. And then the great thing about these is that the next time we move, we can disassemble the garden beds and take them with us. They're made of galvanized steel and they're gonna last a really, really long time. And they can totally be moved with us. So growing your own food is such an important part of homesteading, and that's such a great way to become just a little less reliant on the American food system. All right, we are back in air conditioning. It is very hot today. So the third skill that you can develop to be a homesteader is food preservation. So this kind of goes along with gardening, although you don't need a garden in order to preserve food. You can preserve food that is grown by local farmers. That is such a great option. We have a farm down the road that I just got a bunch of tomatoes from that I'm going to can into tomato sauce. So my tomatoes are not ready yet, but that's going to be my first project. Canning is a wonderful option if you want to have shelf stable and ready to eat food on your shelves, but there's other ways of preserving, like freezing, dehydrating, and root cellaring. And I actually talk about these things in the video I just made, and you can find that on the cards up above. And I go more into food preservation and preparing for emergencies. And that goes right into the next step for becoming more of a homesteader, is that a good homesteader puts food away for emergencies. Even if it's not your own home canned or home preserved food, you can still put food away that you buy from the store. So canned goods, shelf stable things like rice and wheat. You know, we may be having a food shortage coming upon us soon. That is what that video I just referenced is all about preparing for food shortages. So again, you don't want to have to rely so heavily on the American food system. You want to have like your own little store in your home. And again, you can do this even if you are living in an apartment or a rental house. You can dedicate some space in your home to having a stock of food. Another thing that kind of goes along with this is having multiple ways to purify water. Okay, the fifth thing you can do to become more of a homesteader is to buy your meat in bulk. So if you are more of a traditional homesteader, you might have cattle and chickens and pigs lambs, whatever, you will have meat animals, and you will slaughter them or get them slaughtered and processed, and then be able to stock your freezer and your shelves, like for canning, with the meat you've raised. But again, if you're in a situation like we are as a military family, first of all, even if we had a lot of land, having animals just would not be practical because we're going to be moving in a couple of years. So what do you do instead if you can't raise your own animals? You can go to your local farmer and buy meat in bulk. So it's called, for example, if you want beef, it's called a cow share. You can do a pig share. You could buy chicken in bulk from a chicken farmer. And that is what we did back in December of 2021, before food prices shot way up, is we bought 1/4 of a cow. And we have, I think it's a 7.5 cubic feet deep freezer, and it fit perfectly in there with room to spare. So we have other things in there as well. And it's the end of June 2022, and so it's about half a year later, and we're still eating from that 1/4 of a cow. So that is such a great way to save money on meat and be more self-sustainable when it comes to meat, because then you don't have to rely on the grocery store. Okay, number 6 is to make your own household and body products. This is something else that I have done in the past, and I used to do it a lot, and then I kind of got away from it just because of busy season in life, having little children. We have 2 kids, 2 and under, and I'm pregnant again. So I kind of got away from it, but because of inflation and things getting more expensive, I am getting more into doing DIY stuff for our household products. And again, this is a way to become less reliant on the system. So you can make your own foaming hand soap, your own lotion, cleaning sprays, disinfectant sprays. There's so many things that you can make from normal products that you probably, or normal ingredients you probably already have around your house, or if you don't, they're very affordable to buy. So things like white vinegar, rubbing alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, essential oils, Castile soap, that kind of stuff. You get empty spray bottles, glass or plastic, whatever you can afford, and you can make your own body products. Something that I will be doing, and this goes along with having a meat share in your freezer, is when I purchased ours, I made sure to ask for the beef fat, and we got 2 bags of beef fat, and I'm going to render that down into tallow, and then you can use tallow to make your own soap and lotions. All right, number 7 on how you can become more of a homesteader is to be creative and resourceful. And again, you can do this no matter what stage in life you are in or where you live. So for example, let's say you're running low on food and you need to go to the grocery store. Challenge yourself to go at least 1 more day, 3 more meals and snacks without going to the grocery store by shopping your pantry and your refrigerator and freezer, and see what you can come up with. And you might find after you do a day of this that you can actually do maybe 2 or even 3 days. And by doing that, you're not only being creative and resourceful, you are saving money because you're postponing going to the grocery store and getting more food when you have plenty of food to last at least 1 more day. So that's one idea. It's a good challenge to do. Let's say you're a military family and you just moved, so you have a bunch of boxes from your PCS. Instead of throwing all of those boxes away or getting them recycled, keep some of them and break them down to line your garden beds to help discourage weed growth. That's what we did with our garden beds. Maybe you eat a lot of eggs, and you can actually save your eggshells, wash them out, dry them, and crush them up to make a calcium supplement for your plants. Along the same lines, you can have a compost pile. Now again, if you're in an apartment, that particular item won't probably be possible, but if you have some kind of yard, you can have a little compost pile. This is something that we still need to try, but you can put your food scraps in there and leaves and other organic material, and you can make your own fertilizer for your garden. Instead of going out and buying brand new gardening supplies, for example, search your local buy-sell trade groups for free or almost free items or things that you can trade for. Plan ahead when it comes to planting your garden, so you're not just buying seeds all over the place and not having any plan. So those are just a few ideas on how to be creative and resourceful on your homestead, but those are some qualities of homesteaders that are really, really important. And the eighth and last tip on how to be a homesteader is to continue learning. Continue learning constantly, educate yourself, listen to podcasts, watch videos, read books and blogs to educate yourself on the areas in which you're lacking. I love doing that. I really love listening to videos and podcasts while I'm doing household chores, things that are pretty mindless. And so I like to fill my mind with those things while I'm doing something else. Another way to learn is to go to a local farm and see if they have opportunities where you can learn or like kind of apprentice, if you will, and see how they take care of their animals, how to milk a cow, how to take care of chickens, all those kinds of things. I think that would be super fun. Or maybe there's a neighbor that has backyard chickens and you can come learn, maybe help them out with their chicken chores, and then they can pay you with fresh eggs, something like that. So look for opportunities where you can learn with hands-on things. All right, so those are all my tips for how to homestead anywhere, no matter where you live, no matter what age you are. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't homestead as a military family or in some kind of situation that is not a typical homestead situation. If you implement these things, then you are a homesteader. You totally have that. And remember, it starts with your mindset and how you approach life. It's really more of a lifestyle rather than how your circumstances exactly look. And we personally, our dream goal is after the military to buy a piece of land and have animals and have a bigger garden and be even more self-sustained. But for now, we are really happy with the skills that we are learning how to develop in our garden and learning how to be more independent from the system. So I encourage you guys to do that too, especially in these times. They're really, really important skills to have and practice, because you just never know when these skills might save your life, or you could help others save their life with these skills. Right now, I think I said this in a previous video, but we're not relying on the garden for our subsistence. We don't have to, we can go to the store and we can buy things. So we don't have to have the garden. But what if there comes a point where we need to rely a lot more on our garden? I don't want to get to that point and not have the skills in which to work the soil and know what to plant, what works here, that kind of thing. I want to be prepared so that if and when that time comes, I can be more confident in my skills, because there's still things that I am learning and I want to practice them now and make mistakes, have my failures when it's okay to have failures and we're not relying on it for our livelihood. And another thing, this is specifically for military families, just kind of an addendum here. When you are, we move every 2 to 3 years. And actually this tip, I have to thank one of my viewers for this, because she left a comment months ago about military families and having home canned goods. So, in the glass mason jars. You have to be very strategic with how much you can and when you're doing it, and knowing when you probably will PCS. Of course, the military is always changing plans on us, and so we don't know, you might think that you're PCSing at this time and then it's earlier or it's later, whatever. It can be very unpredictable, but about when you might be PCSing. So like we will probably be PCSing 2 summers from now, or not next spring, but the spring after that. So I have to keep in mind, I have to watch how much I can, because I don't want to get to the point where we're ready to move and I have all of these home canned goods that obviously the packers won't be able, the professional packers can't do that, because what if those things break en route? It would be a mess. Depending on where we would be going, as long as it's within the United States, and if it's a reasonable amount, those canned goods can be transported in our private vehicles. But you don't want to have this huge stockpile of home canned goods when you're about to PCS, because that's time and money on your shelf. So think about that when you're canning stuff, about, okay, when's my next PCS, and kind of calculate, try to use up most of those canned goods before you move next. And we have this challenge as military families where we have to kind of start over every time we move. We have to restock our refrigerator and buy new pantry staples and that kind of thing. Some of it, like dry goods can be transported, but we have to start over like every 2 to 3 years. So that's the challenge for us. This commenter said that she would be doing a lot of dehydrating rather than a lot of canning, and I think that is a great idea, because dehydrated goods can be stored in non-glass containers and they're very light, they don't take up much room. So maybe as military families we can focus a little more on dehydration and freeze drying if you can afford to buy a freeze dryer, which would be awesome. And again, the same as with freezing, we are frozen goods, unless you're moving like 2 hours away or something, having frozen preserved food just isn't ideal. We always have to get rid of so much frozen and refrigerated food every time we move. Keep that in mind as a military family if you've made it this far. All right, well, I hope this video was helpful and encouraging for you guys who are in this situation. You're not in the ideal situation to have a homestead, but again, you are a homesteader. Have that mindset of wanting to be more independent from the system and developing these skills that I talked about in this video, and you can consider yourself a homesteader. So if this kind of topic inspires you and motivates you to learn more, then make sure you are subscribed. Hit the red subscribe button below and let me know where you're from, and if you're a military family too, or what your situation is with homesteading. I'd really like to hear from you guys, and let me know if there's any topics you want me to address in the future. So in the meantime, you guys take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.